I really think, yeah, that's my vision for the future, not massive traffic jams. So, but yeah, the government, I mean, decided to invest £15 billion in road building. So yeah, we're losing battles we thought we'd won a long time ago. So yeah, we've got a long way to go.
I guess I've adapted a kind of regular presentation. Some of the hassle people have seen bits of this before, but it's up to date with some really interesting news from tonight. So it does involve a figure, I'm afraid. Okay, so power down was one of the key themes that came through from the Zero Carbon Britain report, which is actually how do we get our energy down in the first place before we get solar panels on the roof or anything else in that kind of way. So I just want to talk about what we've been doing here. And this is basically a group of people who decided that it wasn't good enough, that we had a community centre that vented all the heat straight through the tiles on the roof, and there was zero insulation anywhere in the building. And we decided to do something about it. So there was enough people around with enough skills to be able to say what we're going to do about it. So Hanover 1010, as a kind of community group, got together and we said, well, what do we need to do? What are the problems? How can we get some money? Fortunately, there was a competition going and we won it. Due to a lot of people in the local community voting for us and a kind of national poll. And we've got various donations from either in kind, pro bono, with John from Citizen and various local people as well to pay for the building fees to get the plans done and things like that. So now we're in a position now where we can think about doing certain things on the building. Now the run-up to that was getting loads of people involved, getting other people aware, and thinking about energy efficiency in your own house. Because this building is just as bad as most of the houses around this local area. Solid wall insulation is needed, and this is this kind of thing that we need to really address across the whole country. So part of what we've been doing is actually getting local people involved to help develop the building in the first place, so they get their hands dirty and actually work out what they can do on their own houses at the same time. Part of that is putting some information in, and now we've got a smart meter that measures all the electric and we can work out what's going on from day to day. But also what we've put in is information boards. So all around the Hanover Centre you'll see is information boards about all different measures that have been put in by local people, local volunteers working here, and it gives you some information about what's been done here, but also, crucially, through the QR code, you put your smartphone up over the top, it goes to a website, it tells you what you can do on your own house, and gives you the links to the information about you taking forward some of the developments here. So what we're hoping is this is like a community resource education opportunity, and when you're here doing your yoga or you're doing your Tai Chi, you've got a prompt on the wall to get you to think about, oh yeah, I haven't got any LED lights in my house yet. And so that's the kind of thing we should be doing. So Zero Carbon Britain, this is the quote from it, a programme to retrofit all dwellings could reduce average heat loss of the UK's housing stock by half. Now that's huge. That's a huge figure. So while we're all getting really enthusiastic and I think it's wonderful that Right Energy Co-op's getting things going and there's lots of community initiatives in terms of generating renewable energy, we need to do this first. We need to do this at the same time and get this into place because we need to get our energy use down away from the extreme levels that Paul was talking about earlier on. So, and here we are. This is this building before we put the ceiling in and closed off the ends, and we reduced the volume of the building that's been heated. It was heating right up to the rafters, up at the top here, and heating the storage areas at the ends as well at the same time. So everybody was here doing their yoga, shivering, goose pimples, with the heaters blasting away half an hour before they go into the room to get it at a reasonable temperature, and then have to turn it off because it was so noisy. Okay, so we said we've got a different environment here, mainly because we won the £10,000. We got the support to actually put the plans into place, get the works on this building, and it's reduced the overall volume, and we've managed to disconnect one of the heaters because we don't need it anymore. This is where we are now. We got the figures in last week. We had 1 year's energy bills after the roof was insulated, and we've saved 60% on the heating of the Hanover Centre. It's just the And that's just the start. Okay. Right. So some kind of alternative. That's 60% reduction every year. And this is some things that John gave me. So 5.7 tonnes of CO2 not being generated by the Hanover Centre every year just because of the loft installation. Okay, so that's equivalent to 648 journeys to London and back, not taken, 10,000 cattle boils, not done. So that's the kind of scale of just this, you know, a very too small bit of room being insulated properly for the first time. And obviously that means that the gas bills are much lower. That gives money for the community centre here to actually invest in further developments and bring this building up into a much better shape for the local community. Okay. Thank you.
Wow, how inspiring is that? Fantastic. Local people, local action. So, here's the last part of the meeting then. So any questions anyone has? Any reflections? We've had some really big issues there, haven't we? Hell of a challenge, but it can be done in small ways perhaps. So has anyone any comments or questions for any of the speakers?
Can I just add something to what Paul was saying? Because it's great on the gas, but we haven't actually done the figures on the electricity, I don't think, but I think the lighting is going to make a difference to electric as well.
Indeed, Bill. And we'll go
so
public for that.
lighting downstairs next.
Mark Grant, go for that. Yeah. We've heard some tremendous examples of local examples of well, showing a model of how we can, you know, really do things differently in different areas: transport, insulation, food waste. I'm thinking of all those people that I talk to in the community who, you know, complain about the rubbish or complain about the roads, and how getting funding is another thing that's that has been a real success stories here. Transport for the community centre, for example. I'm left with this nagging feeling that it's still a minority activity, and a lot of people out there. I'm just wondering if you've got any ideas of how to. Okay, spreading the word by showing these examples is great. It just feels like a big challenge to get out there in the mainstream community, people who watch telly a lot or even read the Argus still.
Something about inspiring and motivating others to, you know, kind of take up this challenge. Any
I'll say something, and I've got Simon in the back here who, one of the things that the council does and has done for many years is personal travel planning, where people like Simon actually go around and knock on people's doors. And with the Lewis Road project for about 2 years, they were working. We had travel teams working in the communities and trying to encourage people to try different ways. And I think that's really important. And I think one of the great successes in Brighton Hove is that buses have actually become the transport option of choice. There are many places in the country and in Europe where buses and public transport is for poor people. And I think Brighton Hove has gone beyond that because they have such a high standard and they work for people. So I think part of the challenge for policymakers and change deliverers is actually to make those options as easy as possible. So I always say, I want people to make sustainable transport choices because they work for them, not because it's the right thing to do, but because it becomes a no-brainer to catch a bus into town, because why would I drive, or to cycle, because, I don't know whether Simon might want to add anything else.
Yeah, I think I would be optimistic, but I'm an optimist. 23 years ago we were in the Salisbury trying to work out what was a fair carbon emissions share, and now we know the answer is 0. But I would be optimistic. In talking to thousands of folks, nearly everybody has something that they're prepared to have a go at. And I think it's quite a, I don't know whether it's a British thing or what, but we don't mind having a go at something, and if we can find that thing, that dimension, whether it's the food waste that was mentioned or any other dimensions folks here, there is a whole range of stuff that people can do, and I think people are also beginning to get to link the National Health Service crisis with our lack of physical activity, and getting to understand they're very concerned about public health, not least in some of the stuff you may have seen and published in the local free newspaper in response to where should we make the cuts at the council. People are concerned about public health, and they are beginning to understand, and we're beginning to understand the scale of some of the connections with walking and cycling. So, for example, if you cycle 3 miles a day, it'll save something in the order of £1,000 a year on the National Health. The scale of the stuff is quite big and quite significant. People like to do their bit. So if we can get across the scale and the importance of some of these what doing our bit is, whether it's for mental health or physical health, then I think there's attractive things there we can help people with.
You know?
I think maybe hopefully a slight counterbalance to the pessimism about how far things can reach, because I suppose one of the things that strikes me quite often talking to people in Hanover is how much people like living in Hanover, and if you ask them why they like living in Hanover, it's because, not all, some people want to get out and say it's all gone downhill, but most people that are, on the whole, are very positive, and they say there's a great sense of community. If you talk to the street cleaner, for example, he says, well, people are friendly everywhere, but in Hanover they actually talk to you, and so we have something very positive there about an area that people want to live in, and I think we've made some starts about organising street parties. We've got a tradition of holding a Zocalo. All right, only 5% of the people come out on the street, but they go around and they talk to everybody else and they feel, more connected. We've had Hanover Day in the past, and I know there are efforts to try and resurrect that. There's the beer festival. There's, there's the street parties. We're trying as hassle to try and promote the play streets, and all these things, as well as sort of a positive engagement, and as people were saying, a positive experience for people, are really providing an alternative to the thing that Paul is it? Yeah, Paul was talking about at the very beginning, which is the massive explosion of consumption and people feeling that they can be fulfilled through buying things and consuming, because the alternative is, well, actually, and I think we all know this really, we're more fulfilled through our friendships and our relationships, and strengthening that, I think, is a really important contribution that we can make locally, and I think we're in a good place here.
Inspiring stuff about Hanover there.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah, okay, go on.
I mean, one of the things is that we live on hills, so we have to walk around. We don't have buses going up and down, we have to run into our neighbours. Our houses are too small to have too much stuff in, so we share stuff. It's back to how difficult it all works. And, it's just natural, really. Nobody's got any place for their kids to play. They have to go to the park, or they can play in the garden here. It's partly lack of facilities, but I think it makes things good.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for that. And we've got a question over here. Yeah.
Thank you all very much for a very wonderful and illuminating talk. It's absolutely fascinating. I have 2 questions to Paul, and Paul as well, I think, from council, right, for transport. Yeah, sorry. Too many new faces. Yes, so first, Ian, it's very fantastic to see what's happening in Ardea, Brighton and Hove with buses in Bath and cycle lanes. And I'm glad to see also that the numbers say that really people are using buses more. One thing that always did mesmerize me though is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that the council isn't strong on the use of lemon buses. And for people who are not from here, lemon buses are buses that run on used cooking oil, and they say that they have 0 emissions. Maybe I'm wrong here as well. I haven't researched that in that much depth. But if I understand correctly, there was some technique that Brighton and Hove buses use that looked too much to me like dumping, when they have sort of squeezed lemon out of the university routes when they started offering the same fare on the Sabre tickets, and now the lemon buses are only used by the Brighton Uni. So I wanted to see where the council stands on that and whether they support it, because we are in the Green Council, not as fully as we would like to. But still, it would be. I would like to see not just buses, but a lot of lemon buses,
Sure.
even if they are red or green. I don't care what colour they are, as long as they don't produce emissions. That would be fantastic, and we don't have to dump the oil then into the landfill. What can be better? Fantastic things. I would like to hear what you can say. And one question to Paul from CAP. Thank you very much for a fantastic presentation, and the report is great. I wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit on what is your stance on the government's support or lack of support for the initiatives that you are suggesting? Because I know that in terms of fit-ins and in terms of subsidies and in terms of, say, offering, say, tax discounts or some sort of instruments of support to people who would like to, say, insulate their houses or something along the lines. The government isn't doing enough, from what I understand.
Okay, that's a really excellent
So that I would, you know much more on that area than I do. I would like to hear what you have to say on that.
Should we start with Ian?
Okay, yeah. So the bus industry is unregulated in this country, so it's all a free market. 99% of the bus journeys in the city are made without any public subsidy. Well, apart from the fact we pay £11 million for free bus drive for older people, but that's an aside. But so we do support the Big Lemon. So we pay the Big Lemon about £100,000 a year for what's called a supported bus route. And yeah, when we came in 2011, for the first time, we packaged up the small number of supported bus routes, which are non-commercial bus routes, so that they were accessible by the smaller bus companies. So that's why we've now got more bus companies operating in the city. And the Big Lemon got one, they're very small, so